Welcome everyone, this is David, and in this video we're going to be looking at how to use the Logos Bible software suite. This is an absolute beginner's video. We're going to go from scratch, downloading the video and understanding their basic web page, all the way up to getting functional with using Logos Bible. Now Logos is an incredibly dynamic program. It's useful if you want to be focusing on devotional study, journaling, and those type of things. And it can take you all the way up into teaching Sunday Bible class, preaching, pastoring, going to seminary, scholastic study. This is a super powerful software. So let's go ahead and get into downloading the Logos Bible software. So you'll want to go to the web page, and over at the web page you'll see at logos.com, logos.com. The first thing you'll notice is up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the sign in option. And if you click on that, it'll give you the option to create an account. And I really recommend that because they will keep all of your resources in their cloud. And you'll actually be able to access all of your resources through the web app. And so if you don't have your computer available and you need access, you can actually go to the web app and access everything in your library. And it's a really powerful tool. And so you can sign in and create an account. And then after you've done that, just click on the download Logos and you'll get their rendering engine downloaded on your computer. Now their home page, you'll see there's a introduction video. And so they kind of give you some overview of what Logos is. If you already have Logos and you're on Logos 7, this is probably not the video for you. You probably won't learn anything, but you can on their webpage see some of the new features, what is new. And the rest of the page just kind of gives you an overview of some of the features and lets you know what is available to you through Logos. After you've downloaded, you can go and you can look at their software, and this gives you the option for packages. If you download the basic package, I believe it has a few free resources, not a lot, but a few resources, and then you can upgrade to different packages. And I really strongly recommend this because when I started, I got the free package. So I got some of the free resources, but I didn't realize that Logos is a library. And so I suppose we should ask the question, what is Logos? Logos is based off the concept of a library. And so you have a library and everything in all of your resources, every page, every word is indexed, and it allows you to search an entire library. And so packages are a curated library for you that scholars have looked at. They've curated this and said, okay, if you're a base user, here's some resources that you need to get Logos functional. And so go ahead and look at the different base packages that they have. And I would encourage you to think about your needs and think of this as a long-term investment. This is something that you're going to use over the course of your life, and it's going to be very useful for you. So think about, what do you need? You know, if you're just a basic devotional Bible study student and you want to be able to, look at some different words and do word studies and hear a few encouraging thoughts from Spurgeon and different great Bible thinkers, then just get the basic one, the standard package. If you're a little bit more, maybe a bronze package. I can't remember how much these cost, but that's going to give you a few dictionaries and things like that. And so think about what your needs are and how you're going to study the Word, and buy a base package. Then after you have your base package, then you can go to their books and resources, the courses and things like that. And so you can start to buy individual books and add that into your library. And all the resources and the features that come with the base package, and I forgot to mention that base packages also include extra features, and these features are tools that you'll use to study the Bible. Very useful. After you have that base package and base features, then you can go in and you can look at different resources, and it's going to help you to be able to build your library customized to the needs that you have. They have some academic support and some tech support. So they always have the sale section, which I have to be very careful to avoid, because just because it's on sale doesn't mean it doesn't cost money, and I end up spending way too much money. But I love Logos. So now we want to get over and look at Logos Bible Program. So this is the Bible software. Once you've downloaded it and all of your resources have been downloaded to your computer, you can study offline. That's really important for me because internet access is not always reliable for me. And so I can study offline. So let's get into this. The first thing, we want to look at the ribbon at the top of your page, and we'll look at a few features. So let's start on the right. You have a help option, and this will allow you to set your program settings to go to, this is external, and go to the web, I believe, to look at software help. I've actually never clicked on that button, so I don't know that it goes out, but I think it does. So this is some pretty useful things if you need help. Don't forget that it is there. Now, you'll see this is the screen that you all are familiar with. This is my screencast setting. So at the very top, you'll see this is labeled screencast. So I have actually set a custom set that opens under screencast. Now I can clear this set. So watch. That is cleared. Everything has disappeared and it's a blank screen. So all of my resources are gone. Now next to it are layouts. And so I have created custom layouts. So you'll see I'm preaching through 1 John. And so I set up a layout that has all the custom resources that I need for 1 John. So we can open that and you'll see it brings up all of my resources just like that. And these are the ones that I go, okay, I really need these resources, okay? So you'll see I have all of these set up. I have this tool that I use. It's a copy-paste tool we'll get into later. And so that allows me, maybe if I need to do some work on my sermon, and I sit down and say, okay, I got to do about an hour work on my sermon just to get some of the stuff done, I can do that. But then afterwards I go, you know what? I need to think ahead. I need to be working a little bit on Romans. So I can close out all of my resources. And by the way, you don't have to close it out, but I've just gotten in the habit. And I can go over to my exposition of Romans. And it's going to bring up all of my Romans resources. And so I can look at all of that. So this saves you a ton of time. Those resources that are specific to the topics you need, you can save them in a custom layout. So it's super useful. Now I'm going to go back to the screencast layout and that we're all familiar with. And we'll probably stay there. I might explore a few others. Well, we'll leave it there. All right, moving over. If your Logos updates your resources, you're going to see a blue circle next to this spinning circle thing, and it'll tell you how many resources have been updated. And Logos keeps your library up to date. It fixes errors. You can report typos, so it'll go through and fix those. Some resources will actually keep adding new information. So commentaries, sometimes the publisher releases updates, and you'll get that. That's really useful. Then here in the middle of your screen, you'll see all those icons, and I have added that. So these are shortcuts. And so if I want to add a shortcut, I just take the tab and I drag it up to the top, and it will let me put a new resource up there. And so that's if I want to add my CSB as a shortcut, which I probably should, actually. I use it so much. And so what I've done, the way I use it, is all of those are resources that I don't want to forget because I want to keep coming back to them to study. So very useful. Now, let's go ahead and close out this tab, and I'll come back to it in a moment. We'll go to the left-hand side, and you'll see that you have a Home button. So if you click on that, what this does is it brings up your dashboard. And now I ignored this for several years. I just was like, don't want anything like that. I thought, okay, they're just trying to sell me stuff. But actually, this dashboard is a way to familiarize you with your library and the resources that are available to you. And they will offer things that they are trying to sell. So again, someone like me, I got to be really careful not to spend money on this, but or at least not overspend beyond what I'm supposed to. But anyway, it's still useful. So you'll see that you have over here on the right-hand side a little tool, and so you can actually tell it what you want. So if I wanted, I could remove the community pricing, and that means that upcoming resources that are currently being developed by Logos, and they are kind of getting a feeling for what the community will pay, I can remove that, and so it's not going to ask me for that. So I actually have control over this. Pre-orders down there, you'll see the pre-orders and the pre-pubs. So the kind of selling stuff, you can actually remove that if you don't want it. But if you want to, oops, I shouldn't have done that. My internet is pretty slow, so this is actually feeding from the internet, just like a browser would. I wish I hadn't done that. All right, so we have this dashboard that gives you an explorer. So you'll see, for example, free commentaries. Logos actually offers every month a different resource for free, and I highly recommend that you check that. It's a great way to develop your library for free. And they will have media like this, a Bible verse, beautifully done. They have, this is a pre-order, so something that they are developing, and you can pre-purchase it. This is a pre-pub, so it's about to be published. It's a new resource that's being published. They also have the Logos blog, and so this is about how church history guards against being a theological bully. And their blog is really high quality, so you can see that, and if that's an subject that is of interest to you, click on it. It'll take you outside of Logos into their blog. So a lot of different resources. Now, I do want to point out before we leave the dashboard, you'll see this, Ancient Inscriptions. This is a resource that I have that explores the various manuscripts that we have. And so this is actually pulling from my library. I don't have to buy this because I already have it. Pulling from my library to expose me more to the resources that I have. And that's what I love about Logos, is as you build your library, it is constantly pulling that library before your eyes in relevant ways, so it's not overwhelming. And so if you click on that, you can explore the different inscriptions that we have. And so it's a really great resource. So I would encourage you, don't ignore altogether the dashboard. I mean, don't get lost in it, because your purpose is to study the Word. But now you click that out, it brings us back to here. The next button we have is your library. And so this screen, this blank screen, is probably what you'll start with when you first download it. And so you click on your library, and this gives you all of your resources. And so you'll see that I have 526 different books in my library. So it tells me how many that I have. And the first one on my list is the CSB. So that's my base translation. So I pull it up, and bingo, it's right there. Another thing I wanted to mention is you can change the layouts. So go back to our layout. If you want one screen up at the top, you'll see you have different ways to divide the screen. So if I want one, boom, it pulls full screen. And that's a bit much for me. And so if I had a bigger screen, I can do 3. So I need to get at least 3 resources up for that. So we can open that and open that. and it needs to go to 3. Okay, so you'll see it split the screen. Now I have a laptop, so this is not comfortable for my eyes at all, but it has my main screen right here. It has the next resource here and the next one here. This is particularly useful for Greek students. So you'll pull up your main resource that you're working from, a Greek commentary of some kind, and then you'll pull up a dictionary that's going to pull out specific the meaning of specific words and so in other words, the kind of resource that has about that much, about that much information, relevant information you need. So that's basically one, lexical entry that you're going to be looking at. That's really what that's for. So it's a great layout for Greek students, but I can't use it because I pretty much hate how small that is, and I have a laptop. So really big screens. I used to go, who in the world would use this? You got it split into 3. Let me get this off. So it's got split into 3, and well, the people who use that, they have a screen like that big. So I don't. So I use the 2. That's just what I prefer, and I go that route. All right, the next thing to look at, we looked at the library. Another thing you can do, by the way, is you can search specifically for what you want. Dictionary. So let's say I want to search for a dictionary. So I do this search, perform a search, and you'll see I have 44 different dictionaries. And so I can then scroll through. If I know the general name of a dictionary, for example, Erdman's, I can add the name Erdman, and it is going to pull up anything published by Erdman's, and apparently I have 3 Erdman dictionary publications, but this was the one I had in mind, Erdman's Bible Dictionary. So I can pull that up, click on it, and you'll see it'll pull it up to the last. Apparently I was researching vinegar at some point. You go, why are you researching vinegar? Well, I'm doing a teaching series on wine. What does the Bible say about wine? And Jesus, they mixed his with gall or vinegar, and so when he was on the cross, and so that was a type of mixture that they offered to Jesus, would have been included in that. And so that was something I was studying, and just so you can see right here, vinegar was the drink offered to Jesus on the cross, and then it gives you the references there. Now you can't see it, but when I highlight that, it actually pulls up a little box. I really wish that I was able to show you this, but for some reason my screencast software doesn't catch the boxes. But it allowed me to copy, do a search, share, highlight, take a note. So we'll get into this in a moment. You can actually journal and add notes to text, which will appear in your text so that as you're reading, you can go ahead and access it. Super useful, and gives me the option to turn this feature off in settings, which I may do because I don't use it. It's new to Logos 8, and I just haven't really fiddled with it much. Now, so that's getting into, so that's the library. Very useful, okay? You can sort by most used, recent used, title, author, and rank. So there's a lot you can do. You can customize how your searches are prioritized. So very useful. Now, let's go ahead and get into the search. This is one of the most powerful features in Logos is search. So let's say I want to search for love. So you enter in and you push enter, and it's going to bring up a search bar. Now you have several options. By default, it brings up the last used option. So this is on basic. Now what basic does is it's a general overview of all the possible searches that I could perform. I'm not going to go all the way through all of them because it's quite extensive and it's a lot more than we need. And also my computer gets a little bit glitchy when I get all the way down the list because it's pulling up so much information. But it is a very useful tool. So at the top you'll see you have a fuzzy Bible search. And so this is kind of like when you go into Google and you type in a Bible verse and you're looking for it. That's basically what it does. So it's going to bring up some possible suggestions for you. And you can click on more to get more suggestions. And I'm actually surprised if I have, 2 or 3 words that are maybe fuzzy in my mind, but I basically know, it usually gets it towards the top. So it's a very powerful search feature. I actually don't use Google or DuckDuckGo or any search engine anymore. I only use this. I always find it using this. You can collapse that if that's not what you want, and it's going to remember what you've done. It basically updates your settings for you. So when you're using basic, if you're like me, I don't use basic for Bible search. I use it for my library search. And so I keep those collapsed. This one, by the way, is basically, it's searching all of the words in the CSB Bible. And so I can go ahead and search that. But again, like I said, I don't do that for basic, for the category of basic search. You have library. So this searches your entire library. And so it's a very powerful, every word in every book that you have. So for me, 526 books, every word is indexed. It's a very powerful tool. And so this will allow me to look at it. And so if I hover my mouse over the first return, love as person who loves. So that's from the Lexham Figurative Language of the Bible Glossary. Wonderful tool. I don't know if that comes with the basic package or not. I'm not sure. So love as a person who loves. So I can, I can hover, and it will actually bring a drop down. Now, I know you can't see that on your screen, but it will bring a drop down that will preview the resource that I am about to open. And so if I click on it, it'll open this, and so you'll see with a highlight, love is highlighted everywhere it's used, and it has links. Okay, so this resource, this fact book, is pulling all of my library together. It's a great resource. And so I could pull up love from the fact book, and it will look at the figurative language, the target, so in other words, who is being, who we're talking about, so the person who loves, the category, metonymy, and then it has reference works. So anyway, we're not going to explore this, but you'll just see everything is linked, and so it's a super powerful thing. And so, for example, one of my referenced works is the Dictionary of Bible Themes. Love this resource. It's one of my favorites. And so I can click on that. It'll bring up that resource. And now I can look at all of this, and all of these Bible verses are hyperlinked to my Bible. And so if I want to look at Psalm 103:17, I click on it, and it automatically takes me over to the CSB. Now I set, in my settings, I set the CSB as my default Bible. So I did that myself, and so you can choose what version is your default, and it'll bring me over. So, but from eternity to eternity, the Lord's faithful love is toward those who fear him, and his righteousness toward the grandchildren of those who keep his covenant and who remember to observe his precepts. Beautiful verse, right? So all that from this search engine. Now, this is going to expose me to everything in my library. Very powerful, and I do want to make note as well of this. I don't use documents. That's because I already had a system in place for how I study, and before I got Logos, and I just haven't gone back and updated it and learned how to use Logos documents. But you can create your own journals, your own documents, your own book. And so people have actually written books using Logos. Pastors write their sermons using Logos. It's incredibly powerful. And I have thought about getting into it, but unfortunately for me, the demand on my study time is so high, I just don't have time to go in and learn that feature right now. And so I just keep telling myself I'm going to wait until I get a break, and then I just never get a break. And I had a break this summer, but then I spent the entire summer sick. So my break was gone. So I would recommend, if you're just getting into it and you have a bit of time, learn how to use documents, because they are very powerful. And every word you write will be indexed. So then when you search, all of your past thoughts will be available to you in much greater degree than they are to me, because my system doesn't do that. So it's a very powerful tool. So basically, you are writing documents that get included into your library. Now, this is the feature I love. So you can search the Bible specifically, and it brings up basically a concordance. And so you'll pull this up, and it has your top versions. Now, I need to go and update that because those are not my top versions, but I just haven't updated it. But it will search your top 5 versions for you, and it will highlight which ones used. So you'll notice the CSB, the first time the CSB, NASB, the Lexham English Bible, and the ESV, the first time they use the word love is Genesis 22:2. And if you'll remember, in the basic, you had Fuzzy Bible was your first result, and then you had the CSB was the second one. That was your CSB concordance. Super cool. You can actually, you have concordances built in to all of your versions. Very powerful. And so the first time that those versions use it is Genesis 22:2, but the NIV uses it 4 times before that. And the first time that the NIV uses the word love is over in Genesis 4:1. Okay? And so if I hover over the, I know you can't see the drop down box, but if I hover over the Genesis 4:1 on the left, it's going to bring up the CSB because that's my base translation. However, if I want to see Genesis 4:1 in the NIV, I hover over the NIV box, and it drops down the NIV. And so now all of that is right there at my fingertips, and I can look at it. So I can compare the NIV to these other translations just by hovering over, and I can read it. So it's very fast. And so a very good way to perform a word search. We also have the fuzzy Bible search, and I love this feature. I no longer use the web searches like Google, DuckDuckGo, whatever, to try to find verses. I just go straight into this. And if you are even close at all in your mind for how you phrased it, you're going to get it. And so let's look at how this works. When you put into search, you have an option. So search, I can click, and it can tell me what are my options. And I have all Bible text. And so you can go through and you can pick what to search through. So if you know that you highlighted this verse in one of your Logos Bibles, I can click highlighter pins, and it will only search within my highlighted text. Now, how cool is that? So if you do Bible study on Logos, this is going to be super cool. And then I can drop down, and this gets even cooler. Look at this. I can, well, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I hope you can. I can choose what color. And so if you do inductive Bible study using different colors, I can say, you know what, I remember I highlighted that, and it was in red. So I can select the red highlighter, and it's going to search only text that has been highlighted in red. It will save you a lot of time. But if I just want to do a general Bible search, keep it at all Bible text. Then you can choose search in what. Now, if you are like, I have no idea where this verse is, search the entire Bible. Or if you're doing a word search, do the entire Bible. If you want to do just the Old and New Testament, you can do that. And you go, wait, isn't the entire Bible Old and New Testament? No, because this also includes apocryphal text. Okay, and so if you're, for the Catholics and people who have a different canon than the Protestants, the entire Bible includes their whole canon. The Old and New Testament will be a Protestant canon, Genesis through Malachi, no apocryphal, no deuterocanonical books. Okay, that's really hard to say. If you only want to search the Old Testament, or only want to search the Apocrypha, only want to search the New Testament, only want to search the law or the histories, the Nevi'im, the Kethuvium. So all of these different sets of books, the former prophets, latter prophets, poetic books. Okay, there's just so much that you can refine your search to and choose there. And lastly, you can choose what Bible versions. Do you want to search all of your top Bibles, all of your Bibles together, or a specific version like the CSB or NASB, and basically turn it into a concordance search? So you can do that. Very powerful tool. So I love the search. Now, I'm not going to get into it because it's really not a beginner's thing, but you can search the media if you're making a sermon like a PowerPoint. If you know the languages, you can do a clausal search, a morph search for syntax. A lot of pretty powerful search features in Logos. So like I said, Logos is probably the most powerful search tool for the Bible on the planet. It is super powerful. For those of you who might be interested in this but don't speak English, by the way, they do have like a Chinese version, a Spanish version, so they have different languages. So if English is not your first language and you are reading this or watching this video, I suppose, check it out. It's for you too. Now we have at the top the docs. Now, like I said, I don't use documents, but very much. Now you can see that I have a few documents that I have started. I'm trying to learn. So I have Arminianism, a study on that. I have Theology of Suffering, the Book of Acts. I've done an exposition, so I try to use it for some sermons, and so it's just too time consuming for me to learn this on my own. But if you want to create a new document, you go up to the right, and you can select what type of document. Now, this is really cool. You can create a bibliography. So, like I said, people write books using this. And so you can see there's a whole list of options, including sermons, that you can use to create. Youth ministers might really find the Word Find Puzzle document useful. You can create that in a prayer list. So a lot of cool things that you can create. I'm not going to spend much more time on that, but just note that you can also create groups. I can't do that because of the country I live in, but you can create groups and participate in group documents as well. So I am online, and because of that, this is pulling from online. So you can see there's a Chinese group, and I have no idea what that says, but somebody has created a reading plan for the Chinese through the Bible. And of course, it gives the name. And so Ford, interesting. So now let's close the documents. Close that. The next section to go through is the guides. This is really powerful, and this is why I suggest updating from Logos 7 to Logos 8, because it's very feature-rich, has a lot of powerful guides. So you can do a passage guide, and I'm not going to go through all of these guides. Don't worry, it will take too long. But if I want to do, for example, this morning I was studying with a friend 2 Thessalonians 1, 5 through 11. That's the passage about God's judgment. So you had a question. So you enter that in and let it render. This is going to depend on how fast your computer is, and because I'm recording, I'm using more of my processor, so it's a bit slower. So you'll see I have no content on this. So I've not written anything, but the first thing it'll do is pull up your content for the passage guide. And that's pretty cool. Over here, you see I have the option to actually remove that section, but I don't want to, because someday I hope to be using documents. Now it'll bring up my commentaries. I can go here on the right, click on Settings next to the X, and I can choose which commentaries to prioritize. Some of my commentaries I don't like so much, and so I can say, put that down at the bottom. This one I really love. Expositor's Bible Commentaries is one of my base commentaries. I love it. Very good. And so it'll bring that up. And so I can hover over that. I can click on it, and it'll bring up that commentary directly to the verse that I'm starting with. So you can see right here, it brings up 2 Thessalonians 1:5 straight to the verse. And so I can start reading and develop that thought. So those are my commentaries. I don't have any journals. So parallel passages, very useful feature. I can look at, now I also want to mention, I have the I think I'm on the gold base, I think is what I bought. And then I have a lot of resources that I've added and a few features that I've bought. So some of these may not be available to you, but I am just going through them so you can see what is available in Logos and what you can do. So I have resources that make this available. So that's what you're understanding, is that all of these sections within search and within all the guides are created by your library, okay? So they don't come with the Logos rendering engine, they're created by your library. Very powerful tool. And so I have the tools, the library necessary to create parallel passages. And so I can look at Old Testament quotes that make use of text, or rather that this text in 2 Thessalonians 1, 5 through 11, that then they make use of. So it suggests Psalm 67 to me. I can click on that. If I go, what's that? It'll bring it up in this book. So Old Testament quotations and allusions in the New Testament is a book that I own. And so I can read it. Oh, here, so that your way may be known on earth, your salvation among all nations. And so this will look at some of the text that they connected here. Okay? Very useful. Now, cross-references, this is another tool, very similar, and it uses the Treasury of Scripture Knowledge, another library book that I have. I don't use this one a lot. I used to be super excited about it, but it uses the King James, and I have nothing against the King James, but I can't understand the language very well. That is, even though I'm fairly well educated, I don't get it too well. It's very hard for me to understand. You know, when I watch movies like Pride and Prejudice with my wife, I'm constantly asking her, like, what did they just say? Because I don't get that old language, so it doesn't work for me. But that is available to those of you who are more familiar with that language than I am, and would be super useful. And just to let you know that that resource, look at how much it has connected. So just by looking up 2 Thessalonians 1, 5 through 11, it has given me all of these cross-references. You could spend hours going through this and penetrating deep into the Word of God and what God says on it, okay? So you can see that this passage guide, here's what it's doing. It's guiding you through how to study a passage, okay, in layman's terms. So you start with your content. Then you go to commentaries, and you check that. Then you check background, parallel passages, and then you do, so parallel passages are concept. They're not necessarily the same words, but they're concept-based. And then cross-references, where does this thought get used in other verses, right? And then what are some important theological passages that relate to this? And so it's guiding you through the process of studying, and then it gets into important words. Now, I have a lot of Greek resources, and so this is useful for me. It brings up the Greek, and I can look at it, and it goes through all of the different words that happen. A really important one in this text is going to be decay. This one, punishment, penalty, or justice. And so I can open that up. I can click on the word, and it's going to bring up my resources on that, the Bible study, Bible word study. And so quite powerful, okay? Lots of different stuff I can go through. And so this gives me, how is this word usually translated? I can hover over and it'll give me the ways in which this word is translated as penalty and the different words that are translated, that get translated into the English word penalty. So, sorry, we just left basic study. So, Bible Atlas, Bible People. So you can just see this is a guide, okay? Now, here's the cool thing. If you just went, David, you left basic Bible study, dude. Now I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm sorry, but here's the cool thing. If you buy or download the basic Bible package, none of that's going to be available to you. Some of that won't be available to you. So some of the more advanced stuff just won't be there. And so it's not going to overwhelm you. Okay, so hopefully you're still watching, haven't given up on me, and you're going to see it's not there. Okay, so it's what you buy. That's why I said take a moment to think about what you need. In fact, you can actually go and you can contact Logos sales representatives, and talk to them. And I have found I've had one experience, one negative experience. I think you're about to hear my son come in, so we might get a little visitor. But I've had one negative experience one time where the guy, what? Okay, just a minute. I'll be there in a minute, okay? I gotta finish this. Um, where the guy, do you want to see yourself on the screen? You want to see yourself? No? Okay. Well, you go play. I'll be out in just a moment. Um, I had one negative experience where I got pressured, but outside of that, I haven't had any negative experiences. They've always been very good. They've never tried to pressure me into buying more than I needed. So very useful, very friendly, and you can talk to them about how you use the Bible and what you're looking to get out of it. And so that's going to be really good for you, okay? So just think about how you're going to use Logos and get the appropriate package. And then when you get into Logos, you won't be overwhelmed by some of these other things that are a little bit too advanced for where you are, okay? And likewise, if you are more advanced and you buy something too low, you might be underwhelmed, okay? So those are some guides. Anyway, I want to bring that back up. You can go through and they just have a bunch of different guides that are going to help you. So biblical person study, theology guide, exegetical guide, expository sermon guide. Very useful for getting started. Now, I wish I had some of these in the beginning. I don't use the expository sermon guide or the exegetical guide very much for me because I've been doing this for years, and so I have my process, I have my system down, but I have explored these guides and they are great. So if you are wanting to learn how to study the Word better, this is a great guide. It's like having a professor teach you. It's really good. So it's going to help you a lot. So that's the guide section. Then at the top, we have tools. Now, just take a moment and read these tools. You can see you have notes. That's what you write. You have a sermon editor. The ones that I use a lot, I mean, I actually use most of these tools. These are really powerful tools. Trying to think what you would probably have at a base package, the copy Bible verse. So let's open that. This one follows you. So wherever your Bible goes, it goes. You'll see it's changing. So as I'm scrolling down, it's changing. It's keeping up with me. Now you can choose the formatting, you can choose the version, and then you can copy and paste automatically into the program where you're in, and it will format the text for you exactly how you want and copy it straight over. Love this. I used to spend so much time formatting the text that I copy into my sermon. That cut it out. It saves me at least an hour of work in formatting my sermon. So very powerful tool. I love it. This is definitely not basic. So the passage guide, that's not basic. Text comparison, that's probably one. So you can compare text. Now, this is too small of a screen. So here's a really cool thing you can do. Go up to the tab, right-click, and select Open in a Floating Window. So that opens, and you'll see now I have this verse that I'm on. It opens from my Bible, and it brings in all the versions that I want to choose. So I can go up here to the top, and I can click, and I can choose what versions that I want and to list, and the ones that I want to compare. So it's basically like having Bible Hub on your computer, never needing the internet, which I love. And then it gives you a lot of data. So verse 10, I've chosen the CSB as my base, what I want to compare to. And a lot of times I use the NASB as the base. Don't use Greek, or you won't get accurate data on this, and you'll see why in a moment. Use a base translation in the language that you're going to be comparing with. So he causes the springs to gush into the valleys. They flow between the mountains. So that's base, 0% difference. NASB, you can read, and so this says he causes the springs. This one, he sends forth springs in the valleys, okay? This was into. And so they have these little red circles that you can hover your mouse over and it'll drop down and it'll show you the difference. What's the difference between the text? Altogether, the CSB and the NASB 95 are 33% different. The ESV is 42% different than the CSB. The Lexham English Bible is 29% different. The NIV is 42% different. The NET is 29% different. The Common English Bible is 53% different. And the King James, or the Authorized Version, is 47% different. So you can see the NASB, the Lexham, and the NET are the closest to the CSB. All right, so that's a pretty cool tool to use. All right, so that's our ribbon. All of that's just the ribbon. And so I think that's a good place for us to stop. And in the next video, what I'll do is we'll go through how to use some of our resources themselves, because you'll see in each tab you have different options, and so you have a lot of different resources, tools within the resource that you can use, and some formatting options. So in the next video, we'll get into that, and we'll learn how to get functional and set up everything you need to make Logos work just how you need it. So again, if this video is helpful to you and you like it, please like the video, subscribe to me, and let me know in the comments what you like, and let me know if you would like more videos like this. I would certainly be happy to keep doing videos like this. And as always, may Christ captivate.